Appreciate you joining in on our episode, First Star Logistics in the Trenches with Dave Lapham with the legendary Bruce Kozerski. Koz, good to see you. You looking good? How are things today?
Pretty good, David. I feel pretty professional. What do you think?
Yeah,
Dressed up pretty nice. Huh?
Looking very stellar. This is going to be kind of an in your life, Bruce Kozerski. This is your life, and we're going to dive deep into the life of Bruce Kozerski and everything football and everything else in your life a little bit. Let's go back to your high school days.
Okay.
Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. I know that's a football hotbed now. Pennsylvania,
Sure.
High school football in Pennsylvania, big time. I played with a couple of guys at Syracuse from your hometown, and they would talk about how important high school football was. What was it like playing high school football under the lights in Pennsylvania?
Oh, it's fantastic. I was big school too. We were the big school division. We had 1,200 kids, 1,300 kids from just grades 10, 11, 12. We didn't even have. We had two middle school. We had two freshman football teams that fed us. So we had 3 high schools in our district.
Wow.
Kind of an inner city type of region. And I played with another guy went to the NFL for 10 years, Ronnie Solt, first round pick out of the Colts. He was a guard next to me on the offensive line.
Huh.
Had a running back that went to Holy Cross with me and he ended up playing safety for 4 years. And so I played with against a defensive back that went to the Packers for a little while. And Mark Duda played for St. Louis Cardinals back in the day, defensive lineman. All played against me that same 3 or 4 years. So we had some real, of course, Joe Pisarcic's from the Valley. Jimmy Cephalo's from the Valley. You can go way back. Back. Those are names that not many people remember, but you and me.
Yeah, I mean, I remember those names. You're getting more toward my era there. If that's some of those guys, that's for sure.
Sure.
When you were a high school athlete, I know you were a wrestler, right? I mean, wrestling was another love of yours. Talk about your wrestling career a little bit.
Well, I only wrestled my freshman year, and it was a passion. But I did wrestle every year after that till I graduated with Ronnie Solt. Ronnie ended up being runner-up state champion, and we used to wrestle all the time. And I keep telling him I don't know how he won the state championship because I beat him. I beat him every day in practice. But it's great for a football offensive lineman. The whole game is with your hands. You play with your hands and your hips and your core. And wrestling was phenomenal for me. It did amazing things. It taught me how to get in shape. I mean, you want to talk about conditioning.
Right.
When you do 6 minutes, eyebrow to eyebrow with somebody on a mat, and all they want to do is put your back on the ground. It's a brutal sport.
It is. I mean, every wrestler that I played against, their balance was unbelievable. Their hips were over their knees were over their ankles. I mean, they were just rooted now. It's hard to unroot a guy that understands how to anchor himself like a wrestler does, right?
I agree completely. I used to practice against Crumray every day in practice, Tim Crumray, and we used to have wrestling matches. That's what it was.
Yeah.
He wrestled in Wisconsin. I wrestled in Pennsylvania, and it was just a battle royale out there.
So, any other sports besides football and wrestling when you were in high school, Koz?
I was big into the shot put discus too. I threw the shot 53, and of course Ronnie Solt and Mark Duda were in the state. They were around 56 feet. They were an inch or so away from one another. But I was the state discus guy. I was 165, 170 feet in the discus. So wow. I was the top ranked thrower in the state of Pennsylvania.
Man, you guys had some strong field events. Did you sweep every meet in field events? You guys rack up points?
We did. My high school was such a good track team that oftentimes the last event was always the 4x1 or 4x400 relay, and he always put the offensive lineman, the shot put discus guys in to run that lap. Right. It didn't matter whether we lost or not, and believe me, we made every attempt to lose it because there was not a lot of speed out there.
So you go to Holy Cross. What was behind that decision when you graduated from high school?
I had offers at Miami, Florida, and North Carolina, and I almost went to West Point. And the reason I considered those West Point and then Holy Cross eventually was I had a knee injury in high school. I had not a scope, but it was an open cartilage injury in my knee, and realized that there was only one play away unless I get educated, which my parents drove into us every day. Education, and right. Fortunately, it paid off. I did get the education, and I was able to pursue a Division I career. In Holy Cross, we played back in those days. We played Boston College. We played Army. We played some big schools.
Yep.
And then we added in 4 Ivy League schools, which were Division I AA at the time, Harvard and Yale, and but then we played Yankee conferences, UConn, and who's now the bigger Division I, and University of Massachusetts. So we played very good football up there. It was just not Miami, Florida.
Right. Well, and you talk about your education. You major in physics. I don't know a whole lot of NFL linemen that majored in physics, my man.
Well, I think that decision again goes back to the knee injury. I was good at everything, all the subjects in high school, just because that's what we were expected to bring that home. But the knee injury said, I got an education, and engineering is what I want to pursue. A lot of the schools that I was recruited at had engineering, but it was difficult for a football player to get educated in engineering. Of course, West Point would have been a great engineering school. Holy Cross had a consortium program. It was the 5-year program, 4 years at Holy Cross with overlapping years at Worcester Polytech. So I actually went to two schools at the same time.
Wow.
I went to Worcester Polytech for engineering and Holy Cross for physics.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a full plate there, man. A full plate.
Well, you put the parties aside.
Yeah, no doubt.
For that, yeah.
So you got your teaching degree at Xavier, your master's in teaching, and now we're talking to you right here at Holy Cross High School. You teach physics, right? I mean, what's that been like, that transition?
I teach the honors and the advanced placement physics, and I love it. That's what I was trained in many, moons ago, and I got out of college and got in the NFL, and other than using leverage, I didn't use a whole lot of physics. And then retired from the National Football League. And the whole time I was playing, I got these, you develop friends over the years, some really good friends. And one of my best friends was the president of the school board down here. He's still the president all these years later.
Wow.
And he asked me to help him look into what it would take to start a football program in Holy Cross. So we traveled all over Kentucky and Ohio and Indiana looking at these schools that just started their football programs. And one of the most important things, obviously, was the weight facility and the football facilities together.
Right.
You have to have locker room facilities, and you have to have weight equipment in today's day and age. These kids have to train. And so that's what we did. We built a weight room. And then when it came time a few years later to start the program, I had a small contracting business. He asked me if I'd be interested in helping him start the program. So they hired John Wysong, who was a football coach in Ohio,
right,
and a math teacher. Great guy, just a tremendous influence on me and the kids. And I got into the building a year later. I taught football. If you remember the way it went, I had the construction business.
Yep.
I did coaching football in the afternoon. I did a little bit of Bengals radio network sideline reporting at night, and then I went to start the whole thing over and over again. And after some point, I had to give it up. And I loved being in the classroom so much that they asked me to be a full-time teacher. And so I gave up everything else and moved into being a full-time teacher and a coach. And a few years later, I became the head coach.
Head coach, and then your 8th year, I think it was the 8th year at Holy Cross. You guys win the state championship. What was that like to have such a new program go out and win a state championship like that? That had to be gratifying to say the least.
I've been in sports for a long time, and the most afraid I ever was, even in the Super Bowl, when we got to the end and Joe Montana got the ball back, and you knew there was a chance you weren't going to win that game.
Yeah.
You've been in the Super Bowl. My biggest fear in my whole sports career was that I was going to let those kids down and not prepare the best game plan I could. And we met as a staff, and then I watched film again that night, and I called them all up. I said, I'll meet you out of school. We got to do this again. Because I went home, I saw like a whole different thing,
Yeah.
And we met again the next day, and then we went in. We had a great game plan, and our kids played their tail off. I couldn't have been more proud of them. But that was my biggest fear, is not preparing them well enough to give them a chance. They were great kids, great players, and they did everything we asked of them.
Man,
that's great feeling.
That is unbelievable. All right, we're going to go back a little ways now because we fast forwarded to your to what you're doing currently, teaching and coaching. But you graduate from Holy Cross, and you're drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals, and one of the best value picks ever. Koz goes in the 9th round, and you're a Pro Bowl alternate 3 years in a row. I mean, you're playing at as high a level as anybody in the National Football League. That offensive line that you guys had that went to the Super Bowl 23 in 1988, That was just one hell of a group. Talk about the relationships. Talk about that offensive line and your memories of that team a little bit.
Well, it was my fourth year. I'd been spot playing. I've been playing a lot of guard. I started guard for 2 of the first 3 seasons, and then in both of those seasons that I started, Dave Remington had been hurt at center.
Yep.
And I had to play the last 8 games of the season at center for both of those seasons. And that next year he had a contract holdout, and so I ended up playing center in training camp, and it got time to the final cuts, and we're getting ready to play Detroit Lions before the last preseason game. They had a Pro Bowl nose tackle, Jerry Ball, if you remember.
Oh yeah.
And Sam walked up to me and he said, "Koz, don't worry about it." He said, You're my starting center on opening day. I don't care what they do with Dave Remington, right? So I didn't know anything about it. And I went to Mcnally. I said, "What the heck's up with that?" He said, they're going to sign Remington. They agreed to terms, but don't worry about it. So I was ticked. If you can imagine, here, in the NFL, it doesn't take much. You lose a job.
Yep.
And Bruce Reimers was doing a great job at left guard, and I was really ticked. And I went out there, and it was maybe the best game I played in my whole career at that point. I beat Jerry Ball over the field. And the next day they waived Dave Remington. And I was the starting center for all those years afterwards. It was just great. But that group of guys got so close. So we didn't really need to talk. We talked a lot initially.
Right.
But once you start to play with guys side by side, you can see what they're thinking. And, you talk, especially that Saturday film review right before the game. When you're watching the video, you're making a call, boom, it triggers instantly. And it just, playing next to Munoz and Montoya and Joe Walter and Brian Blados and Bruce Reimers, just a tremendous, tremendous group of guys. They did nothing but want to win, and they work to win every day.
Yeah. And what about, you mentioned Jim Mcnally. What did Jim Mcnally mean to you in your career, Koz?
You don't know what you've got until you lose it. I can tell you that. My last year, Jimmy had gone, and I think he'd gone for a number of different reasons. He'd gone because he didn't want to make those difficult decisions about the guys that he loved so much, this offensive line. And we were all getting in the bit a little bit. We had to go, and he chose to leave before those decisions had to be made. And we speak to him all the time. He's still a big influence in us. But when someone else comes in, you realize just how they don't prepare as well.
Right.
Yeah. I only know Jim McNally. You knew guys before Jim McNally, but when I got Jim McNally, we would study our opponent every day of the week, and then on Saturday morning, he'd say, "Now this is what this guy did to me when he was with Minnesota. We're playing Pittsburgh. This is what this defensive coordinator tried to do to me, not to the Bengals, but tried to do with me. Because this is the way I block, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And we would watch film on the Packers, and we're playing the Steelers. Well, I'll be doggone if more than half the time we didn't see exactly what the guy tried to do again. And of course, at that point, then we'd seen it, picked it up.
Right.
Normally, you got to make halftime adjustments. We made them in between from one play to the next, and that's why it works so well.
The 1988 team, the Super Bowl 23 team, the things that happened, right before that Super Bowl with Stanley Wilson, and then during the Super Bowl with Tim Crumright sustaining that, brutal injury. Do you ever think that if those two things hadn't occurred, it might have been a different game, or do you not let your mind and your head go there? Or what do you think about when you think about Super Bowl 23?
I think about Super Bowl 23. Those are the first two things I think about. Losing Tim Crumright was invaluable. Randy Croft, the Pro Bowl center from the 49ers, retired after the game. He wasn't playing his best football at that point in his career.
Right.
And had a double team Tim Crumright. And as good as David Grant did when he came in, he was only getting one guy blocking, and they were able to help somewhere else. And it made a difference in the pass protection and their run blocking. Tim Crumright was certainly worth the 34 seconds that we lost by.
Right.
Stanley Wilson, my gosh, that field was so bad. I don't know how many 3rd and 1s and that we didn't make that we would normally just blow out of the water. He was the best short yards running back in football that year. And to lose him the night before the way he did, I mean, that was traumatic. Not only for us, I feel so bad for him and the trouble, the internal struggle that he had. Just shows you how brutal those drugs are. And you get hooked on them. It's awfully difficult. And it affected him, but it also cost us.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It really is really is a sad finality with respect to how that the night before and what happened during the course of that football game. But what a season! What a team that team was, that 1988 team. What do you think was the biggest reason for the greatness of that football team? Where are a couple of tangibles or intangibles that you can relate to as you think back to 88?
87 was the strike year.
Right.
And we were in every game that we played and only ended up winning 3 of them. They only played 15 games that year. We missed one because they brought the players in. But we were in every game that we played. And honest to God, it seemed at times like we were inventing ways to lose games. Right. We had a 10-point lead with 5 minutes to go and gave up 2 kickoff. We fumbled 2 kickoff returns back to back. They scored quick touchdowns and we lost the game.
Yeah.
And we were better than that. We knew that. It was kind of a slap in our face. And we took it upon ourselves to not make those stupid mistakes. And as talented as we were, it didn't take a whole lot. When the offense behind that offensive line, we were going to run the ball. Icky came in, great asset. James Brooks was just always phenomenal. From the day he stepped on the field, it made a difference in this offense. You had to give Jimmy a crack, and you had to give Icky a cave. Right. You had to open up a cavern for him. But they never. It seemed like they never made the wrong cut. It was just amazing how well they took to that package. But we only had 4 running plays, Dave. You want to talk about simplifying it? Four different running plays, and everything else was a play action, pass after that.
That's what it's all about. I mean, if you can run the football and then give the exact same look and be able to play action pass, you got the linebackers and safeties right where you want them, man. I mean, that's what it's all about.
How many teams today can run the ball when they know you're going to run the ball?
Right.
When there's no mystery in it. We didn't have any mystery. We were going to run the ball, and we still put 240 against the Seattle Seahawks.
Right.
We had 300 yards rushing in several games that season, and they knew we were going to run the ball.
When I think about you as a player, Koz, I mean, it's like, okay, offensive lineman, what are you looking for? Even in today's NFL, draft, free agency, whatever, you're looking for a guy with intelligence. You check the box big time. We talked about your academic background and not just smarts, but football smarts, that goes along with it. Some guys are smart but don't have the football acumen. You definitely do. Durability, you had that. You were there. I mean, accountable, dependable, reliable, versatile. That's another big thing. Because you can play anywhere in the offensive line. Did you look at that as was it something that there was good and bad to it, or did you look at it all one way?
You were the first me.
Yes,
I talked about this. If anybody knows what it's like to be a tool, it's you do.
Right.
The thing is, and again, back to my upbringing, I was born and raised, the more you can do, the more handy you're going to be, the more useful you are. And so I learned everything I could about every position there was, because it only benefited me to know what Anthony was doing and what Max was doing and all those guys around me. And then I wound up playing those positions. I mean, I came in as a rookie playing center and tackle. And the first game I actually got into, I was playing guard. I played all tackle and all center during training camp. Michael Broderick blew a knee out.
Right.
We had Gary Smith roll an ankle and Blades roll an ankle. The next thing I know, Max Montoya pulls a hamstring and I'm starting against the New England Patriots. Andre Tippett.
Yep.
Yep. It was just I could handle it, and so I did. They say, when you first come into the league, the game is going so fast. You got to figure it out when it slows down. And that's about what happened about the third, fourth game of the season. The whole playbook slowed down for me, and I had it all figured out.
Yeah. To me, I credit being able to do, playing all the positions all the way back to my rookie year, because Paul Brown was the head coach and way ahead of his time, obviously, for a lot of reasons. But, he would give us tests on your assignments. So, you just draw your assignment or whatever. Well, he said to me, look, I want you to not only draw what you're doing, I want you to draw what everybody's doing, because I want you to understand the whole not just tunnel vision on you. If you pull as a center reach and tackle blocking down, fullback filling, what's going on around you? I want you to understand all of that. And I'm like, okay. And he opened the door, mentally, like you're talking about, to have a perspective on the entire game, not just a little part of the game. So I was ready to, like you said, I mean, when you were playing at one position, you knew what the guy next to you on both sides were doing as well. So it made it an easy transition to be able to do that once you get a comprehension of it mentally, right?
Yeah, every position has their keys. And so if I know what Max Montoya is looking at before the snap, right, I know what he's doing.
Yep.
And the linebacker has to make one little step, and I know what Max is going to do, so it made it easier for me to figure out. And that was the whole key. I used to practice 2 snaps at right tackle, right guard, center, left guard, left tackle, out for 2 plays, and then start the whole thing all over again, like a damn typewriter.
Yep.
Right now, boom, 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 right? Then you get 2 plays, you get a water break, then you're back in for 10. And I mean, early the first few weeks, there was times when I'm playing right guard on a play where the left guard pulls and I'm trapping the guard. We went. I hit Max. I trapped Max one day. I was playing left guard and pulled and trapped, and he was right. Of course, I was wrong. But you get, where am I? I don't even know where I am at this point. But once you figure it out, it's not rocket science.
No, I remember that I did it in a couple of games where I played, like you said, would play a series at each spot, just go up and down the line. And I'm telling you, man, the defensive linemen were like, "What the hell are you doing? Weren't you just over here?" Yeah, I was over there. I'm over here now, here, there, and everywhere. But yeah, it's a challenge.
The playoff game we had in 1990 against the Raiders, I went out there as a center.
Yep.
And a guard got hurt, and the next best player we had, Dave Douglas, was a center.
Yep.
So he went to center, I went to guard. Then we had the other guard get hurt, and his best position was center as well. So David moved over to guard, and that guy came in, and I moved to the other guard. And then, I played three positions in the same game multiple times, including tackle. I started for half a season at tackle.
And you know how, now that you're coaching, you know how valuable that versatility is. I mean, in the NFL, when you can only, have X number of players active for the game, and you can only have 7 or 8 offensive linemen up, the 2 guys that aren't starting better be able to handle multiple positions, and probably 2 of the 5 starters better be able to handle multiple positions too. I mean, now it's kind of almost not taken for granted, but more and more people are utilizing. But back in the day when we were doing it, that wasn't a common thing. It was very different.
Yeah, I think it was a novelty at that point to have somebody.
Right.
They all specialized. And the difference. How hard it was for a left tackle to play right tackle, and vice versa. Joe was almost a Pro Bowl right tackle, and Anthony was out, and they moved Joe to left tackle to play against Cleveland. You know who Cleveland had right there, don't you? Clay Matthews.
Yeah, Clay Matthews. Yeah, he could come.
He had, I think 5 or 6 sacks in that game, and Joe never played left tackle again. Right. He went back, had a Pro Bowl, the rest of the season was Pro Bowl material for him.
Blocking Reggie White and everybody, right?
Oh, yeah. The difference is amazing, just the footwork and the technique and how your body handles that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But, to be able to play inside, left, and right, and, it just means a whole lot. I feel great about what I was able to do. I know the people around me appreciated it. I loved playing in front of that crowd. They were crazy. I love playing at Riverfront.
Yeah. So now that you're coaching, what's the biggest thing that you took from your playing days as you transition to coaching that you're applying?
Well, you got to teach everybody the way they learn. That's the biggest thing is some people can take harsh criticism and will pick it up, and some people will take harsh criticism and crawl in a hole and never be seen again.
Right.
Some people, you got to put your hand on their back and say, no, this is what we really got you to have you do here. And then some people just can't be coached. And it takes you a while to figure out what everybody's specialty is. And the one that can't be coached eventually finds his way to the bench and doesn't know why. And that's the same thing that used to happen in the NFL. A guy would find himself on the bench and eventually gone and doesn't know why. He did everything he thinks he had to do. But it's not about being the toughest, the strongest, the fastest, but doing the right thing when it's your job. Yeah.
So now that you've won a state championship as a football coach, and you've had kids go on to play college football, scholarships, and those kind of things, what does that mean when a kid comes back, that played on your state championship team to visit you and your other coaches, whatever, and say, hey, you know what? Thanks for what you did for me. I mean, how gratifying is that after the fact when you realize how much you help kids transition to the next phase of their life?
Here's a rewarding part. I just my wife ran into one of my old players at the grocery store,
Yeah.
And they were talking, and he said, you know what? I never realized how hard they worked coaching us. He said, I'm coaching my little kids' baseball team, my little kids' football team. I never knew how hard it was to communicate to all those people at the same time. And these were guys that were really good high school football players. I've got one right now, graduated from Purdue. Hopefully be drafted somewhere middle rounds, a linebacker. Just a tremendous, tremendous player. Dave, here's an inner city kid that grew up with nothing.
Wow.
Here's an inner city kid that lived in the Heights over here that couldn't go home because of the neighborhood. He stayed at friends' houses to get his food. He stayed at a girlfriend's house to get a food. Wow. And he got the scholarship. He had hundreds of offers because he's just a physical freak. But being nice, and he got educated. He had a 3.6 when he graduated.
Wow.
That's the kind of kid right there that you're so proud of, because you could tell them till you're blue in the face. Especially freshmen, they're ignorant to the fact that everything they do wrong is on a transcript now. They get that C and they're satisfied with it, and that C shows up as a senior as a C.
Right.
That's not going to help them get that 3 or that 4 GPA that they need to get into the better colleges. And every time they get a bad grade, they take a whole bunch of colleges off of their transcript, a whole bunch off of their possibility. Well, this is what this kid didn't do. He took every grade as it came to him. He did everything we asked of him. And, you look what happened. Physical ability, absolutely. But his character, his personal skills, the way he took care of himself with no real home life. And, I'm so proud of him. But, I got a bunch of guys, Division III, the same type of thing. That, I'm saying Division III, it's a commitment because you got to pay for your education. But if you put that on the transcript, you're going to get a job. You may not get the job, but it's because you didn't do well in the interview. You put NCAA football on your resume, you're going to get the interview.
Yep.
And they do. Very proud of that.
I mean, it sounds like you've you're a parent almost to some of your players, probably a big brother to others. I mean, obviously a mentor, a counselor. I mean, you fill a lot of roles, and it seems like you're doing exactly what Bruce Kozerski should be doing. I mean, it just shows all over you. Have you ever thought about, though, maybe going to the college level or the professional level from a coaching standpoint? And if you did think about it, what kept you doing what you're doing so well?
I think timing is the reason I'm here, to be honest with you. I was just asked to help start this program, and I had just committed, and I got a phone call from Bob Wiley. Bob was the line coach at UC at the time, and he just got hired by the Bengals to go over there and coach their tight ends. And He said, Coach, I'll put in a good word for you if you want to coach their offensive line over here. I know you'll get the job. And I said, I just committed to this, Bob. I really can't do it. And I didn't. And here I am all these years later, and the coaching is great. I love the coaching, but it's in the classroom and the teaching that happens every day with the kids that I have. Sometimes we have the great fun. We have a lot of fun in class. Sometimes we have crying sessions. These kids come to school these days with bigger problems than you and I can ever imagine. And, inner city, it's just part of it. It's a socioeconomic part of it that's so demoralizing to some of them. It's the no family life that's so demoralizing. It's the alcoholism and the drug addictions. It's the mind games that some parents play. And these kids they just want to be normal kids. They just want to grow up normal. Yeah. And when they see all these other friends that aren't so normal, they kind of realize they don't have it as bad as they think. And sometimes just listening to a kid and talking them through his hard times and realizing that, I don't have it as bad as I think I do. Confident, like you say, sometimes you just got to sit there and let him talk and get it off his chest or her chest. And, like I said, I love what I do because of the people around me, the kids in particular.
Koz, I'll tell you, God bless you. I'll tell you, you're changing lives. You're impacting lives at the most critical time, probably, of their lives. I mean, they're at crossroads, a lot of these kids, like you're talking about. And a guy like you, puts them down the proper path. And, man, that's got to be rewarding. When your head hits the pillow at night, you must sleep well, my man.
I do. I do. course, carrying this carcass around, and we're not getting any younger, David. You know what it's like.
I hear
you. Don't get any, you certainly don't get any smaller. So
right.
yeah, but no, I love what I do, and that makes me get up in the morning.
Cause you're a great man. Appreciate your time, and good luck this year in football and in the classroom, and do your thing, my man. You're the best.
Salute, David. Thank you so much.
Have a great one.